A very good afternoon to all my dear students. I welcome you all into the Industrial Pharmacy First. Dear students, we are on to the aerosols. And in our previous lecture, we had gone through the details of aerosol, like say what the aerosol mean, what is their meaning, what is their definition, what will be the advantages of the aerosols, what are the different limitations associated with them, and what are the different uses of the aerosols, in which we saw that there are topical aerosols, there are nasal aerosols, there are ocular aerosols, there are vaginal, rectal, etc., etc. So based on the utility, there are n number of types of the aerosols. Now, as far as our today's lecture is concerned, today we will go through the different points, like say we will going to compare the properties of the different propellants that are going to be used in aerosols. Then we will try to understand the role of propellants in the aerosols, and we will try to understand the different types of containers that are used. So this will be the learning outcome for today's talk. And in order to understand these topics, or in order to achieve these learning outcomes, our lesson plan that will move like say the propellant, the concept of propellant, then what is the classification for the propellants, how the propellants these are going to be nomenclatured, what are the different types of propellants, the advantages, limitations, uses, and the different container materials that are used for the aerosols. Now, as far as the components of any kind of aerosol system is concerned, so that will consist of the four basic components, and these are propellant, containers, valve and actuators, and the product concentrate. Product concentrate is nothing but your therapeutic agent, which is to be delivered in the form of the fine mist. Valve and actuator, these are the devices which are used in order to expel the content. Container, that is for holding the content, and the propellant, that is used in order to expel the content out of the container. As far as the propellant is concerned, in case of any kind of aerosol dosage form, it is considered as the heart of an aerosol package. The propellant that is responsible for developing the pressure and to expel or to disperse the product through the valve when the valve that will gets opens. So this is the valve. When we are pressing it at that time, it will going to be expelling the content in the form of the fine mist. And propellant is what? It is a dispersion medium as well as the driving force for provider dispensing discharge of the product from the containers. Now here you can see that there are the propellant vapors in case of the liquefied gases, and there is a compressed gas in case of the compressed gas kind of the propellant system. So here there is a presence of product, here there is a presence of the product and the liquid propellant. Now, if we see the propellant, there are two different types of propellant, that is the liquefied gas and the compressed gas. So there is some empty space. This empty space is said to be the head space, and this head space is responsible for the process of expansion of this liquefied gas as well as the compressed gas. So you can see the classification, the types of propellant, they had been classified as a liquefied gas as well as the compressed gas. If you see the liquefied gas, these has been further subdivided into the three different, that is the hydrocarbons. In short, these are called as HCs, chlorofluorocarbons. These are in short called as CFCs, and hydrofluorocarbons or hydrofluoroalkanes. These are in short called as HFAs. Now, as far as the liquefied gas is concerned, as already I told you that the product that is mixed with that of the liquid propellant, and in the headspace it will get propelled. When we are going to be processing this valve and actuator, at that time the gas or the liquefied propellant that will get expanded, and that is responsible for creating pressure onto this product concentrate, so that it will comes out and it will get dispensed in the form of the fine mist. Propellants in gaseous or in the vapor state. The propellant these are used, these are either into the vapor state or into the gaseous state. Now they can be filled liquefied at relatively low pressure or at a relatively low temperature. In liquid state, in pressurized package, the aerosol that is exists, and partly it is in the vapor state in case of the headspace. Here you can see it is in the headspace in the form of the vapor state, whereas here it is in the form of the liquid state. Now, as far as the functioning of these propellants are concerned, when you open the valve, what will happen? Some propellant is in the vapor state is mixed with that of the product for helping in spray formation, and it is dispensed with the product. Now, some of the liquid propellant immediately automatically converted into the vapor state to compensate the vapor propellant mixed with the discharge and with the product concentrate. Now, this is the gaseous propellant that is exerting this pressure, and final pressure is same as that of the initial pressure. Now, what does this mean? This is having the great significance that the initial pressure is equal to that of the final pressure. So this is important because over a period of shelf life, upon the storage, if the as the time that will passes on, the ability to expel the content that will goes on decreasing in case of most of the propellants, in case of most of the aerosol system. And this is because of what? This is when the initial temperature that may not be equal to that of the final temperature. Sorry, pressure. Final pressure when it is equal to that of the initial pressure, so that it will maintain its working properly throughout its shelf life. So the liquefied propellant that becoming gas mixed with product helping spray formation. The product concentrate solvent and the liquefied propellant, they may be in the two different phases. So functioning that will depend on the final pressure. So as I told you that the final pressure that is equal to that of the initial pressure, and that should remain throughout the shelf life. So by this way, the headspace is always full of the propellant vapor. Now, if you see the types of liquefied gas propellant, there are three different types of liquefied gas propellants: hydrocarbons, that is the HCs; chlorofluorocarbons, that is the CFCs; and the hydrofluoroalkyls, that is the HFAs. If you see the example of the hydrocarbons, HCs, the examples are the N-butane, isobutane, and the propane. As far as the advantages of the hydrocarbons are concerned, these are cheap, these are affordable, these are cost effective, these are available at a very affordable price. These are safe to the ozone. That means they don't have their effect onto that of the ozone depletion effect. These are having the negligence greenhouse effect. They will not go for producing the increase into the global warming or the temperature. These are the excellent solvents. The hydrocarbons are the excellent solvent. They can be used in order to dissolve the so many products, so many solutes. Then they will expand well. They will be having the large expansion ratio. So this is most important because into the headspace they will get expanded, and as they will be having the larger expansion ratio, the expellability of the content that will be good. The disadvantages associated with the hydrocarbons is that they are highly flammable. Sometimes they will produce the aftertaste. They may be toxic following the inhalation, and they will be having the low liquid density. So these are the disadvantages associated with the hydrocarbons. Now there are CFCs. CFCs, these are nothing but the chlorofluorocarbons. Here the examples are the trichloro monofluoromethane, dichloro difluoromethane, and dichloro tetrafluoroethane. So these are the CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons. These are also called as CFC11, CFC12, and CFC114. Now they will be having this numbering system, or they will going to be nomenclatured using this numbering system, and this numbering system is in accordance with that of the nomenclature of the CFCs, and this nomenclature that is given by the ASHRAE. So what is ASHRAE? ASHRAE, that is nothing but the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating and Air Conditioning Engineers. So this particular society that had given the nomenclatures to these hydrocarbons like CFC-11, CFC-12 and CFC-114. They had created a standard numbering system for the halocarbon numbering system, and they had designated it with the 3 digits followed by an alphabet if required. As you can see, in case of all, you will going to find the 3 digit. Here there is a 114, here is a 014, here is a 011. But as this is the 0, so 0 that doesn't make any kind of significance. That's why here instead of writing 0, it has been written only as a 2-digit number. But actually this is not the 2-digit and this is the 3-digit number. So the first digit is the 0, right? Now, as far as the nomenclature is concerned, this numbering system is given on what basis? The first digit, that is nothing but the number of carbon atom minus 1. So if you see this, with this example, CFC11, if you see, it is the methane, trichloro, 1-fluoro, methane. So methane, that means methane will contain only one carbon atom, right? So 1 minus 1, that's why it is the 0, right? So that's why here there is a 0 and 0 has not been written here. Instead of that 0, 1, 1, it has been written as 1, 1. Same is the case associated with CFC1, 2. Again, it is the methane. So the difluoromethane, that's why carbon atoms are 1. So 1 minus 1, that is 0, 0, 1, 2. So 0 doesn't make any significance. That's why here it is, instead of writing 0, 1, 2, it has been written as CFC 1, 2. Then the second digit, that is the number of hydrogen atom plus 1. Now here if we say, in case of methane, here there is no hydrogen atom, right? So 0 hydrogen atom, 0 plus 1, that's why here it is 1. Again, same is the case here, all the hydrogen, the 4 hydrogen, they had been replaced by 2 chloro and the 1 fluoro. Here by the 3 chloro and 1 fluoro. So that's why the hydrogen atom plus 1. So this is the second digit. That's why here it is 0 plus 1, it is 1. 0 plus 1, it is 1. And here in case of the third, that is the CFC114, you can see it is the ethane, right? So again here if we say 4 plus 2, that is 6, right? So again here there is a number of hydrogen atom that are 0. So 0 plus 1, that's why here there is a 1. Are you getting me or not? Right? So the second digit, that is nothing but the number of hydrogen atom plus 1. The third digit, that is equal to the number of fluorine atoms. Now if we say this, in this case, number of fluorine atom. How many fluorine atoms are there? 1. So that's why there is a 1. How many fluorine atoms are 2? Here there are 2. That's why here there is a 2. Here how many fluorine atoms are there? Here there are 4. That's why here it is the 4. So the first, that is nothing but the number of carbon atom minus 1. Second digit, that will represent the number of hydrogen atom plus 1. The third digit, that will represent the number of fluorine atoms. And all remaining atoms are assumed to be chlorine atoms. And initial 0, that is indicating one carbon compound, is omitted. So as it has been seen in case of the CFC11 and CFC12. Right? Okay. So that's fine. Then if you see the examples, here you can see 1112333 heptafluoropropane. It has the 3 carbon atoms. So 3 minus 1, that's why it is 2. 1 hydrogen atom, so 1 plus 1, that's why it is 2. 7 fluoroatoms, that's why it is 7. So, and no chlorine atom, therefore it is named as HFA. So HFA 227. 227. CFC114 for the dichlorotetrafluoroethane, and CFC12, that is CFC012, it is for the difluoromethane. Now, advantages of the CFCs are that these are less toxic upon inhalation. These are not that much toxic. They will possess the high chemical stability. They will possess the high purity. And CFC11, that is the very good solvent which is used in case of most of the cases. Now, the disadvantages associated with CFC is that they're high cost. These are costlier one. That's why when we are introducing or when we are including these, they will going to increase the cost of the product. They will contribute to that of the greenhouse effect, and these are responsible for the ozone depletion effect, being phased out by the HFAs and banned by many countries. The CFCs, these are going to be banned, and these are going to be phased out by the high fluoro alkanes, hydrofluoroalkanes, because of their greenhouse effect, right? Now, except their use in case of some essential medicines like say the bronchodilators, ergotamine tartrate, certain topical antibiotic sprays, and the contraceptive vaginal forms, the CFC is not at all used. And these are used in case of only developed countries, and that too in a very, very limited extent. Now, here you can see clearly that what is the ozone depletion effect and all. You can see there are the sun rays, there are solar radiations, and they will consist of the ultraviolet rays. So because of the ozone layer, these ultraviolet rays could not able to reach to that of the earth. Now, because of this CFCs and their emission, what will happen? They will going to be decreasing this ozone layer, and that is going to be leading to that of reaching of these ultraviolet radiations to that of the earth, and that will be producing their effect onto the biological organisms, and that is responsible for producing the global warming effect. That is this ozone layer, this carbon dioxide layer, that is responsible for maintaining the uh, green or the cool nature of the earth. But because of this depletion, because of its removal, the total temperature that is going on increasing. So that is what is known as the global warming. So the CFCs, they will show the detrimental effect on the Earth's ozone layer, and Montreal Protocol on the substances that depletes the ozone layer, that was passed in the January 1989. And they had set a timeline for the use of these CFCs in order to eliminate their use, and which will contribute in that of reducing the effect of CFCs onto that of the ozone depletion layer. So the HFAs, these are going to be used as a alternatives and have less an effect on the environment. And CFCs are exempted for a very few classes of the aerosols, like say the metered dose inhalers for oral and the nasal steroidal drugs, like say bronchodilators, ergotamine tartrate, certain topical antibiotics, sprays, and the contraceptive vaginal forms, as already we saw in our previous slides. As far as the hydrofluoroalkanes are concerned, these examples are the HFA 227, which is nothing but the 1112333 heptafluoropropane and 1112 tetrafluoroethane, that is HFA 134A. They will be having their advantages that these are less toxic on inhalation, these are having high chemical stability, these are having high purity, and these are not having the ozone depleting effect. Now, it has been found that when the CFCs are substituted by the HFAs, the global warming potential that is reduced by more than 75%. See the detrimental effect of the CFC, and the total global warming contribution of the HFA MDIs, that is less than that of the 0.5% of the total greenhouse gas emission. That means the replacement of the CFCs by that of the HFAs, that is going to be contributing a great in order to save the environmental health. The disadvantage associated with the HFA is that these are costlier one. They are high cost. These are the poor solvent, and they will be having the minor greenhouse effects. The next is the compressed gas. So all those what we saw up till now, that was the examples of the liquefied gases. Now there is a compressed gas. So the examples are the carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and the nitrous oxide. So advantages are these are not costlier one. They will occupy the headspace. These are less inhalational toxicity producing agents. They will be having high chemical stability, high purity. They will be having not its effect onto that of the environmental hazard. But the disadvantage associated is that these are non-volatile co-solvent and are required to be used, right? So they are not the good solvents. They require the use of co-solvents along with them. They will expand less. This is the major drawback associated with the compressed gases. They will be having the very little expansion ratio. So over a period of time, if you see, most of the time their efficiency to expel the content that will goes on decreasing. They will produce the coarse droplet size. What is required in case of the aerosol, that is the fine mist or the fine droplet size. but that is not in case of the compressed gas because the fine mist is not produced, it is in the form of the coarse droplets. And the use is limited to the application where the type of spray is not critical. Let's say, for example, the dental creams or the hairsprays or the germicides, right? That means these are going to be used in case of the topical applications where the penetration may not be required. Again, here you can see that how the operation that will occur that has been shown in this particular picture. The pressure is going to be exerted onto this valve and actuator. So as a result of which what will happen, the gas that will undergo expansion, as a result of which it will exert the pressure onto the inner liquid, as a result of which it will get expelled into this tube, and through this nozzle it will get spread in the form of the aerosol systems, right? So this is the way by which the compressed gases they will works. And upon valve opening, the gas pushes the liquid and the product that is going to be dispensed. Now the remaining amount of the gas has more space to occupy in the head space. And so after use, the pressure that will drops and goes on decreasing with the passage of time during its use. So this is the crucial one. This is critical one when we don't have the initial pressure equal to that of the final pressure. If you see the containers, as far as for the use of containers are concerned, in case of aerosols, what is necessary, what is required is that they must withstand the pressure up to 140 to 180 psig. Psig that will stands for the pound per square inch Gauss, and that too at a 130 degree Celsius. Now, comparing to this, if we will see, there are different types of the containers. As you can see, there is a tin plated steel, aluminum steel, then there is a stainless steel, there is a plastic, there is an uncoated glass, and there is a coated glass. If you see the last three, that is the plastic, uncoated glass, and the coated glass, they withstand the temperature or the maximum temperature, that is 25, 18, and the 25 respectively. Whereas the temperature that they can withstand, that is the 70 degrees Celsius. That's why these are not that much suitable to use as a container in case of the aerosol systems. If we see the first three, that is the tin plated steel, aluminum, and the stainless steel, they can withstand the pressure up to 180 psig, and the maximum temperature that they can withstand, that is up to 130 degrees Celsius. So that means the criteria which is there to use as a container, that is going to be fulfilled by these containers, by these metals, for using them as a container in case of the aerosol systems. If we see the use of tin plated steel is concerned, they are light and inexpensive. They may be coated with the organic coating for additional protection against to that of the corrosion, like say the use of oleoresin, phenolic compounds, vinyl compounds, epoxy coatings. Then the coating that will also solve the compatibility issues. Most of the time, sometime the product that may not compatible with the tin plated steel, but if there is a coating, so this issue that will going to be solved. This will going to be used in the topical pharmaceutical aerosols. Tin plated steel, these are widely used in case of the topical preparations. If you see the aluminum again, that is the mostly used in case of the most of the aerosol systems. So this use, that is because of their advantages, because of their properties, like say these are less reactive, these are light in weight, these are seamless, these are easy to fill and crimp, and they will shows the greater resistance from the corrosion. Aluminum, they will not undergo the process of corrosion, that is the effect of the atmospheric oxygen. Then these are having the visually appealing nature. These are incompatible with some propellants, like say the solvents that may be coated with the organic coatings, and these are going to be used in oral, topical, and most of the meter dose inhaler systems. Then the stainless steel, again, if you see the stainless steel, that is extremely strong container for the aerosol. These are resistant to the most of the materials. No extra coating is required, usually in smaller sizes. only due to high cost and production problem. Their use that is limited in case of the small sizes, because in case of small volume or in case of small size of products, if you are going on using this stainless steel, as it is expensive, that will increase the product cost. And again, they will be having their production problems because of their strong nature, to use them as a container in case of the small sizes that may not be good or that may not be acceptable. These are going to be used for inhalation of the aerosols. Now, if you see the glass, again, the glass that could be used as a container in case of most of the sprays, perfumes, right? Because of their high aesthetic values. Have you ever you imagine that the spray system, or say the perfume, or say there is a fragrance which is going to be packed into a plastic or say aluminum? No, you cannot, because say even though for a very small volume you are going to be paying much, and that's why in order to increase the aesthetic value, generally the glass that is going to be used in case of the sprays and the perfumes. So they will be having their advantages, like say there is a high aesthetic value and compatibility. They will be compatible with these agents. They will allow the visibility of the content. Just from outside we can observe the content. And for product with lower pressure up to 25 psig and lower percentage, only about up to 15% of the propellant, the glass that can be used effectively. Now, the glass that will be having the high aesthetic value, they will allow visibility of the content, and their use is limited for the product with the low pressure. The plastic, they can be coated with the glass and is used for avoiding the shattering, because say there is, the coating is required. If it is not going to be coated, then chances are there that if they fall down, they will undergo the process of cracking, breaking, and the shattering. Now they are going to be used for some topical and for some of the MDIs, meter dose inhaler aerosol systems. If you see the last one, that is the plastic. Now, for the use of plastic as a container system, if you will see, these are cheap, these are durable, these are light in weight, and these are going to be used in case of the small size. They can withstand the lower pressure, that is less than 25 psig at 70 degree Fahrenheit, and these are incompatible with some of the solvents. They are going to be used for the nasal spray, rectal sprays, and for the vaginal sprays. So all these are the different containers that are going to be used for the aerosol systems. And today we will stop at this particular point only. Thank you very much. Have a good day to you all.